Support comes from the Rosa Parks Museum on Troy University's Montgomery campus. Located on the spot of Mrs. Parks' historic 1955 arrest and featuring exhibits that chronicle the history of the Montgomery bus boycott. More information at troy.edu/Rosa Parks.
If it's Monday at 12:40, then it must be time for TPR Podcast Presents. I'm Austin Toy. Every week, we bring you selections from one of Troy Public Radio's 13 locally produced podcasts. Like it or not, the AI revolution is upon us. College students the world over are using generative AI and large language models like Chat GPT to do everything from helping with brainstorming and research to actually writing their papers for them. But there are responsible ways to use this new technology. In this selection from the Culture and Belonging podcast, Dr. Scott Nokes tells hosts Rich and Wendy how he's teaching students at Troy University to use AI the right way.
There are ethical and effective ways to use AI, which also means there are unethical and non-effective ways to use AI. And around here, we expect it to be used ethically and effectively.
Right.
One of my basic mantras is the robot should work for the human. The human should not work for the robot. Mm-hmm. And what that means is there's a lot of process stuff, intellectual process stuff, in fact, that we can now offload to robots. And they're not really robots, but I'll call them that for this purpose.
Right.
But the basic critical thinking, they can't do. The human has to do that.
Right.
When we're teaching students how to write using AI tools, we start off with, you do not want to use an AI to come up with your thesis statement. You do not want to use an AI to outline. You want to use it to draft and then change that draft, because if you're using it to do that, it can only give you the most cliche answers that are the most commonly found ones, the Family Feud answers, right? The most common answers. And no one needs you to do that. Yeah. We need you to apply your human critical thinking, your human creativity, and use these new tools to do that more efficiently and more quickly. But you as the human still need to be in charge.
Yeah.
One thing that I try to get my students to think through is, difference between describing and then interpreting and then evaluating. Mm-hmm. But then there's another stage, and it's the application, right? So what good is this knowledge? Even if you're using AI perfectly, whatever that means, how are you going to apply what you know now?
Yeah.
And that, I think, that's another challenge that I don't think any AI expert is completely thinking through.
Right.
So I don't know how AI is going to change the culture of higher ed.
Right.
I mean, I'm seeing some things, I can detect already. I'm like, oh my word, I think you let AI write this,
yes.
But that's also because I gotta read right. So much.
Yeah.
But I'm not convinced that the artificial intelligence yet can help me think through second and third order effects of my actions, right? So I'm going to do something that's going to have an impact. Okay, well, what's going to happen then?
Yeah.
And that I think is when I've got into conversations with students about, how are we going to use this new technology? What does it mean for doing political science research? I'm like, okay, well, I'm not convinced that the evaluation yet, the description's fine.
Right.
Maybe even we're getting into the interpretation stage. But can you evaluate and then apply?
Yeah. No, that's true. One of the reasons we can't sort of know how the application is going to work is we're setting up, like at Troy, we're setting up we have these freshman classes that everyone has to take, and we're teaching them basic literacy and basic ethics, right? But once you get into your field, how it gets applied in that field is going to be radically different in different fields.
Exactly.
What is a good way to use it? What's a bad way to use it? In some fields, it might be unethical to use it in a way that is not just ethical, but expected in another field.
Right.
And even aside from the ethics, just like what is a good use of this? If I'm in a field where we're writing a lot of boilerplate text, then maybe I can use AI to produce my text for me. I want something that's bland. I don't want something that stands out in that case. Whereas most of what we're doing in the English department, my English major's not interested in using it for that. But what they are interested in doing is using it I use it every academic paper I write. I use it intensely for the research part. And what I mean by that is not that I help it find my sources, because I found it's pretty bad at that. It just shows the basic sources. But instead what I do is I'll use certain tools and I'll upload every text in it that I'm quoting from. And then I cannot remember these 20 articles I'm looking at. I can't remember. So I'll ask the AI, like, where did so-and-so make this argument about such and such a manuscript where he said this? And then it'll show me the exact line and which PDF I've uploaded in.
Right.
So it's kind of like having a research assistant. So like the kind of things that were just tedious, like skimming through things, finding things again, that I don't really need to use my human mind for.
Right.
You know, I can use a robot to do that. I find it very effective for that. Whereas other fields, you know, maybe they're not working with a whole bunch of sources like I am. Maybe they're working with fewer, and that might not be effective. And so I think we don't have an answer, because I also think there isn't going to be one answer. Yeah, there's going to be many.
Well, like other forms of technology, it can either help us save time and make us more efficient and effective,
Or it can be a black hole of trying to make it better and trying to figure out the best possible prompt for what.
It might make us lazy.
Yes. And then there's that too.
That happens too. And, you know, I mean, there will be some people who will be able to find employment being lazy. But there is a limit to that, right? There is a point at which someone says, well, what do I need you for?
Yeah.
If all you're doing is reporting me what the robot said, I could ask the robot that. Well, I need your humanity.
Right.
I need your understanding, your true understanding of the culture, right? There we go. We'll bring it back. Your true understanding of the culture. You belong in a way that this AI doesn't and maybe can pretend to. And we see people, you know, there's a lot of anxiety, and I think real important anxiety that should be there about people thinking that they've created new real relationships with artificial intelligence. And that's a false belonging, right? You can think that you are associating with this thing, but in fact, there's nothing there to belong to. It cannot feel back to you. It cannot do that. And you know, and we will have some techno features say, but in the future they'll be no, they will not. If they can perfectly pretend that they do, they still don't. In the same way that I can, you know, recite a love poem to my wife on film, and maybe I felt that, but when she's watching the film doesn't feel anything, right? The film is just a film. It looks just like me. It talks just like me. It says what I would say, but it's not me. I'm somewhere else.
Let the robot work for you.
Yes.
Don't work for the robot.
Exactly right.
It's that simple.
Yep, that's right.
That's very sad and scary.
Yeah. Well, I'm here to uplift.
Yeah, but that is uplifting actually,
It
because
is. It's not too late.
I think our audience, especially the audience that works at Troy and anybody else listening, like at least we are trying to stay at the tip of the spear.
Yeah.
And we're confronting this in a way that is integrating it into what we do, because it's not gonna go away.
No.
You know.
And I do think so. What I said was a warning, right? But I do think actually that AI will be mostly a positive invention for humanity. But when we invented the printing press, it was a revolution. It changed everything. It made universal education possible. It made the university possible.
Right.
But we also know that the memories of people in literate societies are far, far, far inferior to the memories of people in oral societies.
Wow.
I think the printing press, the revolution of the printing press, has been valuable for humanity. I wouldn't give it up, but we do have to know we will lose some things.
Right.
We'll gain some things. There's something that is as revolutionary as universal education that was impossible before the printing press. Something like that we're going to gain from AI. We can only guess at what those things are.
You can hear the full conversation with Dr. Scott Nokes on the Culture and Belonging podcast on Spotify or at today.troy.edu/podcasts. I'm Austin Toy, and this is TPR Podcast Presents on listener-supported Troy Public Radio.